This video covers the prehistory of Native Americans, from the early migration to the continent, up to the encounter with Europeans in the 16th century. Let's start with some definitions. Prehistory is the period of human evolution between the first known use of stone tools by hominins around 3 million years ago, and the beginning of recorded history with the invention of writing systems. The use of symbols, marks, and images appeared very early among humans. However, the earliest known writing systems, capable of recording history, appeared around 3200 BCE with the development of the cuneiform system in Sumer. The adoption of writing technology across the globe was a very slow and non-uniform process, resulting in the end of prehistory for different cultures, occurring at different times. The period when a culture history is written about or recorded by others, but the culture has not developed its own writing system, is known as proto-history. For instance, the Pueblo cultures of New Mexico never achieved their own writing system, but their proto-history is recorded by Europeans that met them early in the 16th century. A three-age system is normally used to describe prehistoric periods across the world. In this system, human evolution is described by the materials commonly used to make tools and utensils. They are the Stone Age, the Bronze Age, and the Iron Age. Sometimes, a fourth age, the Copper Age, is added between the Stone and Bronze Ages. South American metalworking was developed in the Andean region of modern Peru, Bolivia, Ecuador, Chile, and Argentina, with gold and copper being hammered and shaped into intricate objects, particularly ornaments. Metallurgy in Mesoamerica and western Mexico may have developed following contact with South America through Ecuadorian marine traders. Unlike other metallurgy traditions where metals gained importance through practical use in weaponry and everyday utensils, metals in South America, and later Central America, were mainly valued as adornments and status objects. Indigenous North Americans had been using native metals from ancient times, with North American copper artifacts being dated to approximately 5000 BC. The metal would have been found in nature without the need for smelting, and shaped into the desired form using hot and cold hammering without significant chemical changes or alloy formation. Inuit and Hopewell culture were also known to have used iron found in nature to produce artifacts but without any further processing. In Canada and United States, copper and iron were just stones found on the ground. For this and other reasons, a different five-age system is used to define prehistorical stages in the Americas. It consists of Lithic era, Archaic era, Formative era, Classic era, Post-Classic era. The Lithic era or stage or period was the earliest period of human occupation in the Americas. The stage derived its name from the first appearance of flaked stone tools. The term Paleo-Indian is an alternative commonly used term for this period. Most humans at this stage were hunter-gatherers with a nomadic life, and a few that relied on seafood were more stationary. The Archaic stage is defined by an increase and intensification of the gathering of wild resources with the decline of the reliance on big game for food. Cultures of the Archaic stage are at some point in the development of the technologies of pottery, weaving, and developed food production, becoming reliant on agriculture or seafood. Social organization is developing into more permanent villages. In the early parts of the period, hunting is gradually replaced by gathering. The Formative stage, defined as village agriculture-based. Cultures of the formative stage possess well-developed technologies of pottery, weaving, and mastered food production, being largely reliant on agriculture. Social organization involves permanent towns and villages, as well as the first ceremonial centers. The Classic stage is characterized by early civilizations such as Maya and Toltecs. No culture in the United States or Canada achieved this state at the time of European contact. Finally, the Post-Classic stage is characterized by groups such as Incas and Aztecs with a high degree of civilization. Again, no culture in the United States or Canada achieved this state at the time of European contact. With the lack of written historical records, archaeologists rely on the dwellings and belongings people left behind to understand how they lived. Archaeologists group observations of similar archaeological dwellings, objects, living style, and adaptation to the environment found through time and across space. Those similar observations give rise to what is called archaeological cultures. Therefore, an archaeological culture represents geographic zones where we think people were living in generally similar ways and across which people were connected through a shared history of interaction with the environment. It is important to highlight that this is based on similar archaeological material evidence, and does not mean that archaeological cultures shared common languages or social habits or were friendly to each other. In summary, an archaeological culture just reflects an area and a time when people living there found similar solutions to live and survive. The periods or eras or stages do not follow a rigid timeline. At certain chronological times, two separate cultures could be at different developmental stages. For instance, one could be still in the Archaic era where another might have already transitioned into the formative era. Because of this regionalization, after the Lithic era, there is a large number of specific regional names given to local cultures. The chronological time says little about which stage the culture was at. When visiting a museum, if the information of the development era for a specific culture is not explicit, ask the staff for clarification. To help with this, we will present next the most important prehistoric Native America cultures, not following a geographical or timeline approach, but grouping them instead into the developmental era the archaeological record places them. All those prehistorical cultures are extinct, but their descendants may have become some of the recent Native American groups that were living in the United States and Canada at the time of European contact. Those descendants may have migrated, and at the time of European contact may have been occupying areas far away from areas occupied by their ancestors. The Lithic stage was the earliest period of human occupation of the Americas, as post-glacial hunter-gatherers spread through the continent. The stage derived its name from the first appearance of flaked stone tools. Those tools, particularly projectile points and scrapers, are the primary evidence of the earliest human activity in the Americas. Archaeologists and anthropologists group lithic flake tools technology to classify cultural periods within this era. The indications and timing of the end of the lithic stage vary between regions. The use of textiles, fired pottery, and start of the gradual replacement of hunter-gatherer lifestyles with agriculture and domesticated animals were all factors leading to the next developmental stage. The lithic stage cultures include pre-Clovis culture, Clovis culture, and post-Clovis culture. Pre-Clovis cultures in North America refer to human occupations dating prior to the recognized 11,000 BCE Clovis culture, with evidence typically appearing between 11,000 to over 21,000 BCE. Pre-Clovis culture used tone tools that were obtained from small retouched flake tools, scrapers, and blades, often manufactured from local materials to process wood, hide, or bone. Key archaeological sites representing these early populations in North America include White Sands National Park, New Mexico. Fossilized footprints providing evidence of human presence between 19,000 and 21,000 BCE. Meadowcroft Rock Shelter, Pennsylvania. One of the most solid, early dated sites, with stone tools dating back to at least 14,000 BCE. Page Ladson Site, Florida. Underwater site in the Aucilla River containing butchered mastodon bones and tools, dated to approximately 12,500 BCE. Paisley Caves, Oregon. Fossilized human feces and projectile points confirming human presence pre-11,000 BCE. Manus Mastodon Site, Washington. A mastodon rib with a projectile point embedded in it, dated to 11,800 BCE. Cooper's Ferry, Idaho. Site yielding hunting tools and evidence of human occupation dating to roughly 12,000 to 14,000 BCE. Deborah L. Fridkin Site, Galt Site, Texas. Deep excavation layers containing stone tools beneath Clovis-aged artifacts. Topper Site, South Carolina. Flaked stone tools found in layers dated to be 14,000 to 18,000 BCE. Bluefish Caves in Yukon, Canada. Bones showing marks interpreted as human butchery from 22,000 BCE. Cactus Hill, Virginia. Artifacts found below the Clovis level dating older than 11,000 BCE. The stone tool culture known today as Clovis appeared suddenly and around the same time throughout much of the American continent. What distinguished the Clovis culture was the use of fluted projectile points. These bifacially flaked spear or dart points are large, up to 4.5 inches long and 1.5 inches wide, and characterized by a central flute or channel flake, and a concave base enclosed by small thin ears. The channels, or flutes, near the base of the projectile points are the hallmark of the Clovis industry. Created by removing broad flakes from either side of the point, the basal thinning of Clovis projectile points aided in hafting the point to a spear shaft. This seemingly minor aspect of Clovis projectile point technology is considered to have been a crucial key to the success of Clovis people, allowing them to sweep across North America and down to the tip of South America at a remarkably swift rate of only 1,000 years. The Paleo-Indians of the Clovis culture lived in small nomadic groups and hunted mammoths, mastodons, and other large fauna from the last glacial period. This is a short list of some of the most important archaeological Clovis sites in North America. Blackwater Draw, New Mexico, site with significant mammoth bone associations. Onsic, Montana, only known Clovis burial site. Galt Site, Texas, extensive tool-making site. Laner Mammoth Kill Site, Arizona, multiple, stratified, single-event kill sites. Murray Springs, Arizona, kill site and camp. Densite, Colorado, mammoths' bones associated with Clovis points. Shawnee, Minisink, Pennsylvania, early northeast site with evidence of foraging. El Fin del Mundo, Sonora, Mexico, earliest site in Mexico. East Wenatchee Cache, Washington, large Clovis blade findings. A global climate event forced the Clovis culture adaptation to survive. Lake Agassiz was a massive moraine-dammed lake that existed in central North America, fed by meltwater from the retreating Laurentide ice sheet at the end of the last glacial period. At its peak, the lake's area was larger than all of the modern Great Lakes combined. It eventually drained, leaving behind Lake Winnipeg, Lake Winnipegosis, Lake Manitoba, and Lake of the Woods. Lake Agassiz emptied over thousands of years through a series of dramatic, episodic drainage events caused by the shifting and melting of Laurentide ice sheet. The lake persisted for roughly 5,000 years, with its levels, size, and drainage routes changing based on the position of the ice sheet. Initially, it drained south into the Mississippi River, through the extinct River Warren carving the Minnesota River Valley. A catastrophic drainage occurred as the northern and eastern moraine dams failed, discharging 5,000 cubic miles of freshwater into the Atlantic and Arctic Oceans. This diluted ocean salinity, slowing the Atlantic meridional current circulation and causing what is known as the Younger Dryas climate event that in a very short time of just a few years, plunged the Northern Hemisphere into a 1,200-year cold period. While the Northern Hemisphere plunged into extreme cold, studies suggest the Southern Hemisphere experienced a warming effect. The event ended abruptly at about 9,700 BCE, marking the beginning of the Holocene epoch. The Younger Dryas event significantly impacted global vegetation, fauna, and humans and contributed to the extinction of the Glacial Age megafauna and forced Clovis culture adaptation to survive. Post-Clovis cultures emerged in adaptation to the changes caused by the Younger Dryas event. The cultures are marked by smaller, more regional, and specialized projectile points in response to megafauna extinction. With this adaptation, post-Clovis cultures departed from a broad pan-continental Clovis cultures distribution. Most important traditions include the Folsom, the Plano, and the Dalton, with many regional variations spread across America. Folsom tradition, approximately 9,000 to 8,000 BCE, immediately followed Clovis, known for smaller, thinner points, specializing in hunting bison antiquus in the Great Plains. Plano cultures, roughly 8,000 to 6,000 BCE. Characterized by unfluted, lanceolate points dominating the plains. Dalton tradition, approximately 8,500 to 7,500 BCE. Known for serrated, lanceolate points, widespread in the eastern United States. It is seen as a transition between Lithic and Archaic eras. Distinct regional adaptations of spear point technology leads to many different regional cultures. Gainey, Great Lakes, Suwannee, Southeast, Nanana Complex, Alaska, Goshen Complex, Northern Plains, Agate Basin Complex, Northern Plains, Hell Gap Complex, Northwestern Plains, Alberta Complex, Northwestern Plains, Cody Complex, Northern and Northwestern Plains, Plainview Complex, Southern Plains, Milnesand, Southern Plains, San Patrice, the Southeast Gulf region, Barnes, Great Lakes region, Crowfield, Great Lakes region, Holcomb, Great Lakes region, Midland, Midland era in Texas, San Dieguito Pinto tradition, California Ob Southwest, Paleo-Arctic, Arctic region. The Archaic stage in North America represents a shift to specialized foraging cultures following the Lithic period. This stage or era is defined by an increase and intensification of the gathering of wild resources through the exploitation of nuts, seeds, and shellfish, and the decline of the reliance on big game resources. Cultures at this stage started the development of specialized tools for hunting and gathering like net sinkers, atlatls, and grinding stones. These cultures were characterized by increased regionalization, decreased mobility compared to Lithic stage cultures with the appearance of more permanent villages and social life. Each culture also developed their own specialized flakestone points. The ending of this era and the beginning of the formative era is defined by the adoption of sedentary farming, with the transition occurring at different dates across America continent. Some of the important cultures by region are: in the southwest, Cochise culture, 5000 BCE to 200 BCE, Ashara tradition, 6000 BCE to 400 ACE, Chihuahua tradition, 6000 BCE to 250 ACE. In the eastern woodlands and plains, Laurentian Archaic, 3200 BCE to 1400 BCE, Piedmont Archaic, 8000 BCE to 1000 BCE, Panhandle Archaic, 1200 ACE to 1450 ACE, Midwest Costercite cultures, 8500 BCE to 1000 BCE. In the West and Subarctic, Northwest Microblade tradition, 8000 BCE to 3000 BCE. Old Cordilleran culture, 9000 BCE to 5000 BCE. In the maritime regions, Old Copper complex, 6500 BCE to 1600 BCE. Labrador and Newfoundland Maritime Archaic, 7500 BCE to 3500 BCE. Windover Site people, 6000 BCE to 5000 BCE. The formative era in North America is characterized by the development of pottery, agriculture, and more permanent, sedentary settlements. In the eastern United States, the term woodland period is used for this period and indicates a transition from the Archaic era into complex mound-building societies. Cultures of the formative stage possess well-developed technologies of pottery, weaving, and food production, being largely reliant on agriculture, growing crops of maize, beans, and squash. Social organization involves permanent towns and villages, as well as the first kivas, earthworks, and mounds for religious and social purposes. An early priestly class or theocracy is often present or in development. They developed extensive trade networks connecting different regions, facilitating the exchange of goods and ideas. Sometimes the formative era cultures entered in contact with cultures from a more primitive stage. The encounters resulted sometimes in cooperative interactions through trade, and sometimes the encounters resulted in conflicts and the dispute of resources. Some of the most famous formative stage cultures are Adena culture, 500 BCE to 100 ACE, known for burial mounds and earthworks in the Ohio River Valley. Hopewell tradition, 200 BCE to 500 ACE, known for extensive trade networks and large earthworks across the Midwest. Mogollon, around 200 ACE to 1450 ACE, is known for distinctive Mimbres-style ceramics. They built large, specialized subterranean structures, or kivas, for community rituals. They created significant petroglyphs. Hohokam, around 300 ACE to 1500 ACE, known for complex and extensive irrigation systems in the Sonoran Desert. Ancestral Puebloans or basket makers, 500 BCE to 1000 ACE. Early farmers in the American Southwest known for cliff dwellings and adobe structures. Mississippian culture, 800 ACE to 1600 ACE. Characterized by large and complex society known for mound building and maize agriculture in the southeast. Fort Ancient, 1000 ACE to 1650 ACE. known for large hilltop enclosures in the Ohio, Kentucky, and West Virginia. What to remember? In the Americas, a 5-stage system is used to classify prehistoric cultures: the lithic stage, the archaic stage, the formative stage, the classic stage, and the post-classic stage. In the United States and Canada, there were no cultures in the classic or post-classic stages at the time of the first contacts with Europeans. Lithic stage is characterized by the stone spear point technologies used. Basic scrapers and simpler tools characterize pre-Clovis cultures prior to 11,000 BCE. Clovis culture is characterized by their distinctive spear point that appeared around 11,000 BCE. Post-Clovis cultures such as Folsom, Plano, and Dalton are characterized by more specialized and smaller spear points. The Dalton culture was transitioning to the archaic stage. Archaic stage cultures present an increase and intensification of the gathering of wild resources through the exploitation of nuts, seeds, and shellfish, and the decline of the reliance on big game resources. Cultures at this stage started the development of specialized tools for fishing, hunting, and gathering like net sinkers, atlatls, and grinding stones. Cultures of the formative stage possess well-developed technologies of pottery, weaving, and food production, being largely reliant on agriculture growing crops of maize, beans, and squash. They live in towns and villages and have structures, earthworks, or mounds for religious and social purposes. They developed extensive trade networks connecting different regions, facilitating the exchange of goods and ideas.